it just like hits us like a bag of bricks. No one's booking. It's super slow, and a lot of things happen. We lost our house. We're having a kid. Our first,
You lost your house?
We lost our house.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it was like it was like all of a sudden it's just downhill from there. It felt very defeating.
And you're trying to bring a kid into the world while this is happening.
Right. And so how am I supposed to be this guy to look up to if I can't figure this out?
This is Small Business Celebration, where we introduce you to successful small business owners at their place of business so that you can learn something that you can use today to grow a strong and profitable business and get your next big breakthrough. Welcome to another fantastic episode here on Small Business Celebration. We're going to be talking about overcoming the need, that carnal need that you may have to want to buy the shiny new toy. We're also going to be talking about, okay, you've got employees now, but how do you be a leader and not a boss? And to guide us through all this is Joseph Hernandez, the owner of InMotion Pro. Welcome to Small Business Celebration.
Thank you for having me.
And for Visioneers who don't know who you are you and what is it that you do?
I'm Joseph Hernandez. I'm the owner of InMotion Pro, and we do everything from corporate and weddings to senior photography. We do video production as well. So anything that can be done with photo and video is kind of our realm.
I have to ask, how much breakdancing do you still do now that you're 40 or something years old?
Actually, I still kind of have a little fun once in a while.
Do you get out the piece of cardboard here on your studio floor and do the whole back spins and all that to bad music, bad rap music from the 80s or 90s?
No, don't do the cardboard. It has to be a shiny, clean floor most of the time. If we're at an event or something like that, they'll have a dance floor or whatever. Just the right song will trigger, and I don't even really do much. It's just my body's just like going to the music.
That's how you got your start in all this.
When I started doing video, it was actually to perfect what we were dancing with, how we were dancing. We would do a move, and they're like, yeah, you're doing it wrong. So we got a camera so we can record it and then kind of replay it. And you're like, oh yeah, my leg's going too low, stuff like that.
Okay.
And then you just got used to being like with the camera.
Right.
And then I became like the friend with the camera, the video camera. We were just filming all the time.
You were the one that got invited to all the dances because you were the camera guy.
Yeah, I had to watch it through a screen all my life, and everybody got to enjoy the event.
Well, and what prompted you to turn this into a business?
Word got out with my family that I had a camera, that I was pretty good on the ones and twos, if you will.
Right.
And I had editing software, very archaic back then. And they said, hey, can you shoot a wedding? When I actually showed up to the wedding, it was the wrong day. So that was how I started my business. Now, so I ended up having my brother shoot it, and then I edited it, which turned out great anyway. And then later on, I actually shot my own. But that was kind of how I got started. Was just like hey, can you do a favor kind of thing? And that led into like, I kind of like this. And so I started doing more and more of it.
What was the tipping point that turned this from being a hobby to a full-time gig?
I was doing video for about 2 years, and then I got hired to be a photographer. Didn't know anything about photography. Did that for about 2 years, and then I was kind of doing both my business and working as a photographer.
Mm-hmm.
Once I was no longer working there, that's when it was like, okay, do I want to have my business on the side and then work a job, like a day job?
Sure.
And my wife didn't let me. She's like, you're going to do your business full time.
Right.
And that was the first time I ever really thought about, like, can I actually make this work?
Your wife's name is?
Rosa.
Rosa. And how long have you two been married?
So we're high school sweethearts. So
Okay.
we've known each other since junior year of high school.
Wow.
And then we got married. I was in like my mid-20s.
Why did she push you into doing this?
So Rosa's always been ahead of the curve.
Okay.
When we were in high school, I would actually write love letters and she'd correct them.
Okay.
She was always, ahead of me as far as the education world. She knew what path she was going to be on. She knew she was going to be a teacher and all that stuff. And I really didn't know what I was going to do. I actually was working like Sizzler and Pizza Hut and In-N-Out and Jack and I thought I was going to be in the food industry later on.
Right.
And so I was trying to really be good at like cooking and all that stuff. She was like, what are you going to do like for a career though? I was like 18, 19, and she was already on me. And I'm like, I'm supposed to know that already? She was like, I knew that when I was like 17 or, you know. So anyway, so she was the one that's like, you really need to push this, you know, your business. And I just needed somebody to believe in me, and I pushed on. Yeah, I never went back to working at a day job.
What was the first gig you got that made you say, you know, I can do this for a living?
I was doing a wedding, and I was full-time. I showed the bride. It was like 100% my work, my idea, editing and everything. And I remember watching it like on her TV and stuff. She was just super happy. That was kind of when it really sparked like, okay, what I do and what I create matters to somebody.
You got into senior portraits. And it's more than just senior portraits, but you also do all kinds of beauty pageants and all kinds of other events along the line. What got you into that part of your business, and why did it become a mainstay for you?
Yeah, so an interesting story. I had talked to a photographer back then. He and I were talking about the wedding industry and how you're a weekend warrior.
Right.
But you know, 4 or 5 days out of the week, you're not really doing anything other than the post work on that one job.
Right.
So he's like, yeah, I used to do weddings a long time ago, and my advice is to find a way to do like weekend work, weekday work.
Mm-hmm.
And so he recommended, you know, that I look to do something that was weekday work, and that's when we kind of saw, well, maybe the schools can be that. We were doing the schools, but we weren't really doing it at like a high capacity. And then we quickly realized that, okay, we should be doing like photo shoots and offering products, taking our time with the clients, and not just thinking that it's just a click and done. So we started doing full-on photo shoots, and we started charging for the photo shoots, and then they would come back and we would have packages where you can buy prints and frame stuff. And so that's when we started realizing, like, okay, the weekday work now sees potential. It wasn't out doing our wedding still, but at least it had potential early on.
You've been talking about all this photography that you've been doing. Did video get lost in all this?
Yeah, kind of.
All right. Well, but is it lost now?
No, so that's a funny arch that kind of happened. So when we got into the business, it was video.
Right.
And then we started realizing that video was kind of looked at as like secondary, and photo was the more popular thing. When you build a business that's successful, you kind of kill off an artist along the way. Fast forward to just a couple of years ago, where it was like, you know what? My passion lies in video. Even though photography pays the bills and we do a great job and people love it, and there's a purpose, you know, it does give you fulfillment, it's not my passion. And what I'm passionate about is creating videos for businesses. That's kind of where I wanted to go back to the drawing board. It was a little bit of a different pair of glasses that we're now looking at it through.
What kinds of video are you shooting for businesses now?
So we'll do anything from like promo and commercial videos to a lot of internal videos. So most of the work that we do is internal. So sometimes it's onboarding, where maybe you have 500 employees, and instead of coming every Monday, the CEO has to like speak to these, you know, new employees, and maybe there's only 12 or something like that. These bigger businesses, they need video of them talking to the camera, and then that video plays for the new employee. So that new employee doesn't get to see the CEO or the CFO or something like that, but they get to understand their role and how it plays in the bigger picture by watching a series of videos. So it's like orientation kind of.
And if you've had Emotion produce a video for your business that's presented and created a ton of positive results to the point that you need to buy a new house, might I suggest you reach out to Mike Saba, a Zillow Premier Agent with Watson Realty, born and raised and never left Bakersfield. Give Mike Saba a call at 661-203-8406 or reach him at mikesaba1@icloud.com today. And Visioneers, if you've got a question, you've got a thought, something you'd like to learn about here on Small Business Celebration, reach out to us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and your question could appear here on Small Business Celebration, just like Heather, who asked, how did you overcome the need to buy new equipment and the feeling that the old gear is holding you back? Because I don't know about you, but great, new cameras, new lights, new microphones, this is the coolest thing ever, I gotta have it.
Right.
How do you stop that temptation?
So for me, it was kind of an epiphany moment where I remember being in my living room, in my dining room, and I was sitting down, and I remember thinking I really wanted this red camera. And it was like a $60,000 camera.
Holy cow, okay.
And I don't know why I wanted it so bad when it was like, you know, new and it was tangible kind of. I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, if I had the camera right now on this table, would the phone ring anymore? And the answer was clearly no. It wouldn't. I would have to make this thing work.
Right.
So that's when I realized I don't really need the latest gadget, the biggest gear. I need something that's more suitable for the job. That's when I kind of created what Joseph wants and needs versus what InMotion wants and needs. And that's how I made my decisions from there on. It was like, I want this camera, and then my wife would be like, does Joseph want it or does InMotion want it?
Right.
Yeah, I was like, you're right. Joseph wants it. So then it doesn't mean I can't get it, but that's kind of how we would decide. And it's like, okay, well, if InMotion needs it and it would actually make us perform better, let's say it was more efficient or something like that, then we would make that decision to buy it.
Most photographers are a single person operation. At what point did you get to the point where you had to have more than one photographer and now actually have a studio with square footage?
Yeah, that's such a heavy question because the truth is that it really does come in stages. It was a slow and painful growth that I wish I knew what I knew now. But the way I started was like, I need somebody to help me, and then I would do this job, and then that job would grow, and then I would need somebody to help me, and need somebody to help me. But the training wasn't always great because I just needed help. And so if I would have known what I know now, it's that I think that when you can say, okay, what are the titles that I'm fulfilling? I'm fulfilling an editor and a photographer. And maybe if you're a little bit more into it, you're fulfilling a visionary's requirements as well. And so I need an editor or I need a photographer. It's a little bit better to say, okay, I'm going to hire somebody to do the editing portion while I do the photography or vice versa. And that was a little bit better for me to take the approach as we started to hire, 2 employees, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. It was always better to say, okay, what is their job description? Like, what are their their titles and their duties before we even hire them? Rather than like, hey, I need you to help me do this one task. And then you're pretty good at that. Can you do 2 tasks?
Right.
You're pretty good. Let me do 3 tasks.
Sure.
That's how I started.
This is something that I run into all the time. They watch Small Business Celebration and they go, hey, Michael, we'd love to have you come and video our project. And the challenge is I sit here and go, well, that's great, but I've got 50,000 other things. Why don't I send somebody equally, if not more capable than I to do your project? And they go, no, I want you. I'm sure this has happened to you.
Yeah.
How do you handle that?
That's a good question. So that actually happened for a long time with a lot of different parts of our business, where they wanted me to go out and do the job.
Right.
Until this day, that's still a thing. 20 years in, there's still going to be people that want you. And even if I'm no longer as good as maybe another person on my team for that thing, they still want me to be there.
Right.
But so the way we actually handle that is through the training. So we follow like a I do, we do, you do method.
What's that?
So I do the job, and somebody just watches, and then they do the job, and I'm there explaining it all the way through. So they're doing it, we do it together, and then you do the job, and I just sit back and I just examine the whole process. And we do that process so that they can be able to achieve the same thing that I can achieve. Once they're at that level, then it's like, okay, I know I can tell the client, can you tell the difference between my work and this work? It's all the same. And so they're usually going to be a little bit more okay with that process. We've done it long enough now to where people are surprised when I show up. They're like, oh, we didn't know we were going to get you today.
Right.
That means that we're doing a good thing. So the product at the end should look and feel the same. And that goes from just not just that technical aspect, but also from the customer service aspect. Are you asking them, the right questions? How are they doing? Are you talking to them about their day-to-day, stuff like that? So it's really kind of full circle, both the experience and the service.
And that brings us to the Visioneer Game. Now, Visioneers, if you're not familiar with the way the game works, I have a random word generator here on my phone. I have no idea what the word the generator is going to create, but more importantly, neither does our guest. And our guest has to take each of 3 words that I give him and somehow associate each word with his business. Now, Joe, you do realize that the fate of the entire photography and videography world is dependent on your ability of getting each of 3 words, these 3 words, correct. Are you ready?
I hope so.
All right. Your first word is dine.
Dine. Okay.
I told you these are completely random. I have no idea.
If you are someone who likes to wine and dine your wife, get them a nice little photography studio photo shoot by InMotion.
Nice, well done, 1 for 1. Well done. Okay, our second word is, I think the app has a food thing going on. Pepper.
So not only are we adding the little salt to all of our photography business,
Right.
we're adding a little pepper too, because we got video business.
Nice, well done. Okay, your third and final word. It all comes down to this. Fence.
Fence.
Not food.
Yeah. Oh, this is an easy one. If you are on the fence of whether or not you should do a professional headshot, come right over and just make the plunge.
Nice, that's 3 for 3. The world is safe now. Well done, you.
That's hard, thank you.
We make it so easy, don't we? Tell me the story about when you were in the recession of 2008, the recession that impacted everybody. It changed your business in more ways than one.
I was kind of on a uphill, right? I guess it was on a high. We were doing really good.
Right.
We were like 4 years into the business.
Okay.
Everything's going great.
Right.
2008 comes. It just like hits us like a bag of bricks. No one's booking. It's super slow, and a lot of things happen. We lost our house. We're having a kid. Our first,
You lost your house?
We lost our house.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it was like it was like all of a sudden it's just downhill from there. It felt very defeating.
And you're trying to bring a kid into the world while this is happening.
Right. And so how am I supposed to be this guy to look up to if I can't figure this out? So it was a pretty low time, and I talked to a buddy of mine, Jared Perry from Freestyle Event Services, and he told me something that I never forgot. He said, we decided to just not take part in the economy downfall. And I thought, what does that mean? It sounds cool, but I didn't know what it meant. And he's like, yeah, we just everybody's hurting right now, and they're all talking about the economy. We just decided not to partake in it. And I was like, so it's like a mental thing? Like you just don't think about it? And he's like, yeah, basically all your energy is going to go towards the opposite. I was like, okay. It was like, I got it. I understood it.
How did this change your business?
It was like night and day. So my wife had just got hired on finally as a teacher full time. And we're so in the rut with the business, weddings are not booking at the time. So when he told me that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna make all the noise I can with my business. I'm gonna let everybody know we're here to stay. So I remember just going full on, as they say, hit the ground running. So we started meeting with a bunch of vendors and just kind of, rekindling some relationships. Business started going really well, really fast. And I'm like, okay, this is working. Whatever we're doing, this whole crazy mentality, it works. You just have to cut out all the negative energy and just completely focus on the positive. And it worked for me. So fast forward to February of 2009, I tell my wife that just had not even finished a full year of working as a teacher to quit her job. And we're gonna go full on. Me and you, we're gonna do this business full on. And I'm like, once we hit $5,000 a month, then you can go back to teaching. Well, she never went back to teaching. And we surpassed that by quite a bit.
Some might argue we are in a recession. How do you tell yourself that even though you keep getting lots of no's and lots of maybe sometime, probably, perhaps once if this thing is over, how do you handle going through all this negative energy coming back with a mindset that, no, we refuse to participate in this recession?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, there's real life, okay, it's a great mindset to have, but in the real world, there are struggles that you're going to have. So to be able to fluctuate through those struggles, it could actually financially, The way we do it is we do scale down, right? So we will look at every single part of our business and say, do we need 3 Adobe software accounts? Can we get rid of one of them? Do we have to have the highest Netflix account? Can we scale that down and watch some ads? And that's for home and for business. So if you do that with everything that you have, what are the things that you're spending money on regularly? Can you scale those down? Can you scale back, payroll? Can you scale back anything from electricity at your studio to subscriptions and stuff? So we do look at those things. So we're not naive and just like, oh, business will come.
Right.
We get it. People are not spending like they were. Any strong business is going to do that. They're going to scale up and down depending on the economy at the time. So I definitely recommend doing that.
How do you not lose the artist from within as you scale your business?
So that's an interesting point, because I do feel like you can be a creator, but are you a creator or are you a business owner? If you're a business owner, then you have to do some things that are not creative, that are not passionate all the time. You have to work, right? You just gave yourself a job. It's still a job. You still got to work. You still got to do things you don't like to do, but you do it anyway. Sometimes you have to shift over, bounce around, and find new lanes, new avenues, new sources of income. Because if you just want to do only the thing that you love doing, the chances are you're going to have a lot of competitors that are saying, I'm going to do this, but I'm also going to do these other things too. And they're the ones that are getting a lot of the business. My advice is, if you want to be a creator, do that on the side and go work for somebody and bring in a source of income. But if you want to be a creator in the business, then you have to think about the business first, not the creative first.
And that brings us to our second Visioneer question, which is also brought to you by Mike Saba, a Zillow Premier agent with Watson Realty, selling Bakersfield homes since 1992. Give Mike Saba a call at 661-203-8406 or reach him at mikesaba1@icloud.com today. And this Visioneer question is brought to you from Aaron, who asks, what tips do you have to become a leader in your business and not a boss to your employees? Because that was also part of your growth.
I think I fell into the same category as a lot of people, where you think, oh, I want to have my business one day and be a boss so that people can do what I tell them to do, right? You have this idea, but it doesn't really work that way. In retrospect, what was going on is, if you're constantly bossing people around, you just got a bunch of people that are not really wanting to do what you want them to do.
Right, sure. They have to be there. They
have to be there, right? What I found was, if you can help self-develop every individual there, and you go with that mindset of like, well, how do I help this person be the best version of them, even beyond my influence? When you can look at it through that pair of glasses, then they kind of see, okay, this person really cares about, not just what I do here, but even beyond if I ever, leave.
Mm-hmm.
And we've actually had photographers that leave, I guess you could say leave, and they have gotten some really, really amazing jobs, and it comes back full circle, and they're like, hey, so we've got this job, it's a little bit out of my league, but can I sub-hire you for this job? Make me look good. I'm like, sure. And that ended up being a reoccurring thing that we were doing as like some product photography for like a big brand, I can't mention the name. And we were doing all these photo shoots. That was completely, I think, because I was building a leader, and they went on to become a leader, and then they still needed some backup help, and then there was like a job well done, and then they're on to doing bigger and better things. They have huge contracts now. So it's like, kudos to you. I don't ever want you to be like, oh, stay small and always work for me. If you look at it like that, I think if you build leaders, you just see them as like, while they're here, we're going to get the most work done together. That's really kind of how I see it.
One of the darkest fears that a lot of business owners have, in addition to that phone call from the Internal Revenue Service, is training and investing in an employee, and then they leave. And what makes matters worse, they open up right across the street and put out a sign for your services except $10 less. How do you reconcile that?
Kudos to them. I do believe that there are no such thing as competitors. So if I train somebody and I give it my all, and they help me generate new revenue, new business, help keep my clients happy. And they learn that skill, whether it's through sales or the creative process or the technical process, and they take that and they go and they start their own business. There's no such thing as two companies that do the exact same thing.
Right.
There's not IBM and IBM too. There's IBM and then there's Apple.
Right.
So they're completely different to me. So when they go off and they do their own thing, even if somehow they're charging more than me and they've only been doing it for 2-3 years and I've been doing it for 20, I don't feel a certain way. I feel like, well, maybe they don't have as much overhead and maybe they can devote more time into just this one project. Maybe they don't have 7 businesses to run. Whatever the circumstances are, but I never look down on somebody for going off and doing their own thing. I promote it, I really do. I'm a strong believer in like each one their own. Enough clients, for everybody. I do have professional friends that don't see the same. And they'll come to me and they say, man, I had this one person working for me and now they're off, they're doing their own thing. Can you believe that? I'm like, I can. And if you're afraid of that, you need to relook at your business and see, are they doing something better than you? Because what's going to happen is the client's going to choose that person and they're either going to be a good fit for them, or a lot of times what happens is they're off on their own, they're new, and they're going to make mistakes. We all do. So when they make a mistake, they're going to say, the client, do I go back to the drawing board, what was working at a higher price, or do I continue paying the lower price? And that's up to them. That's up to the client. If they want to, sometimes, and I say this because it's true, sometimes a client is okay with meeting a photographer at Starbucks or in an alley to collect the money, and that's okay with them. But sometimes a client wants to come into a professional studio and they want to be able to look at different frame options, and that's what we're here for. So I think that goes to everybody, that you want to make sure that you're just investing into people to the best of their ability, and it's okay if they go on. There's no two people alike.
It's no secret that there's a lot of business owners who are struggling right now. Is the American dream dead?
No, if you think that, you're dead in the water.
Okay, sure.
No, if you think the American dream is dead, it's because you're looking at it through, I guess you could say, the glass half empty. Here's what I say. When people say, oh man, times are tough right now, I'm like, that's great. I'll go get that business too, that you're leaving on the table. So you can't think like that. So I'm always kind of like, there's enough business for everybody, but at the same time, how much are you actually trying to get? Are you working toward that? Are you telling everybody nonstop about your business? Are you taking advantage of all the different resources that you have? Not just online, but in person? But I think overall, as long as we're still doing people to people, I think the American dream is going to be alive for a very, very long time until I'm no longer on planet Earth. Because a handshake still goes way further than a cold call or a cold email. And I think it will be like that forever. As long as you can do that, you'll be in business.
Joseph, this has been a real treat. Thank you for joining us here on Small Business Celebration.
Thank you. Appreciate you having us, having me.
And if Visioneers want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
So you can reach us by email, mail@inmotion.pro. You can also go to our website at www.inmotion.pro.
Social media?
Yeah, so we encourage people to follow us on the Instagram at InMotionPro. But we also have, if you're a photographer or a filmmaker, we have InMotion Studio. It might be InMotion Pro Studio. We have one for photographers and filmmakers, and we have one that's for all of our clients that are like weddings and events and things like that.
And after a quick message from Planned Exits, we're going to talk about getting out of the doldrums. When we come, right back.
Thank you, Michael. According to the Small Business Administration, there are over 33 million businesses in the United States. Only 10% of those ever reach the $1 million annual revenue mark, and only 4% exceed $5 million. If you're one of those, let me celebrate with you. Visit my website at plannedexits.com.
Getting out of the doldrums. As many of you Visioneers know, it's important to have a complaining session. You have to have that point periodically where you have to be able to vent, whine, complain about everything under the sun, because keeping that kind of stuff bottled up it doesn't do good for you personally, psychologically, and most importantly, emotionally. Anybody who tries to go through life and say, oh, everything is perfect and everything is wine and roses, yeah, they're not telling you what's really going on behind the scenes. And yet, we as business owners have to be very careful on who we complain to. We can't complain necessarily to our employees or our family or some of our other business contacts, because that can just snowball into a whole variety of things that do not or are not conducive to our businesses and our lives. Now, I happen to be very fortunate. I happen to have a very small group of people that when we get together and we complain and praise each other, it stays in that group. What happens and said there stays there. And not that long ago, I was with this group of people, and a whole complaining session just started to happen. And it was almost like all at the same time, we all realized what the problem was. We were in the doldrums. We were in a period or a state of inactivity. We were in a state of stagnation. We were depressed because nothing was happening, nothing was moving. And because we were able to figure this out, we also realized that in order to get out of the doldrums, you have to do the opposite. You have to increase your activity. You have to get out of stagnation and make things happen, whether you like it or not, because that also gets you out of the depression. So, now that spring is here and spring has sprung, but you may find yourself depressed. You may find yourself in a situation where things are not growing as fast or as well as you'd like to. Do the opposite. Increase your activity level. Get rid of the stagnation. Make things happen the best you can and find the right people to help you get where you need to go. And that will also help you get out of the doldrums. I hope you enjoyed our conversation this week here on Small Business Celebration, and I hope you learned something that you can use today to grow a strong and profitable business. And we'll see you here again next week when we celebrate another small business making a big breakthrough.
Canon and Sony. For me, I'm a diehard Canon fan. There are probably 500 reasons why people will choose Sony over Canon, and they all rightfully so. For me, it's Canon. I like the simplicity of it, the color rendition, like how it produces the colors right out of camera. It's got to be Canon for me. 10/10, like it's going to be Canon all the time. So I would think the worst color to wear for a headshot would be maybe like a bold yellow or a bold pink. It's so dominant over your eyes, your skin color, that it really overpowers what you're trying to do in the headshot, which is to convey your personality through one picture. I always stay away from the very bold colors, pink, some kind of purple or something like that. People don't listen, but that's usually what I try to stay away from. The three things that we bring to every photo shoot is a memory card, a backup memory card, a battery, a backup battery, that's already 4, the camera and the lens. But I can't tell you how many times a photographer has not had a memory card. That is like a known thing. My advice, have a memory card, live in your car. Have a battery, live in your car. It's just there for months on end, unused. It's gonna come in when you least expect it. If you want to be looked at as a true professional in photography, the best way I go about it is if you have 2 lenses right next to each other. You're about to make a purchase, and this can be lenses or it can be cameras, but you're looking at an expensive option and a less expensive option. Generally, you're going to upgrade to the expensive one anyway later on. So 20 years doing this, I'd say go with the more expensive one because you're prolonging the inevitable, and you're going to buy the cheaper one and you have to buy the expensive one later. So just figure out what you need to do to bypass this and just buy the more expensive one so you can get the better quality and you'll have way better results instantly for a lot longer period of time. What a woman should wear to a headshot is generally no jewelry here. Small earrings is okay, or a small tiny little necklace, but typically a collar shirt of some sort. You can do color. Generally a background's going to be something more basic like a gray, white, or black. So the bold colors usually don't come from the background, they come from like your shirt, your top. Your dress shirt may be covered with a blazer over that, so there's a pop of color if that's the thing. Otherwise, you can always be safe with neutral colors, black, white, and gray, but suited. And I always recommend to go suited from top to bottom, even though you're not going to show your shoes. It just makes you feel more professional, I guess, from top to bottom, more there. If you're a guy and you're going to be doing headshots, outfit I recommend, be fully suited. I always recommend the blazer. People ask me, with or without the blazer, it's almost always a yes. Dress shirt, tie, blazer, it's always a good default because you're usually putting this on LinkedIn or a website. They don't know you yet, your clients. And so I always recommend doing a full suit, again, from top to bottom, so that you can come with your best look and your feel. You just feel professional from top to bottom, even though it's just a headshot. It's just a headshot powered by AI is really kind of a low representation of you and your brand, because it screams, I'm not willing to invest in my own image. When people have professionally done headshots versus an AI, it's going to get more likes, it's going to get more traction, more viewers, more eyes. So I always recommend doing a professional headshot. It shows that you care, it shows that my image matters to me, and if I'm that way with me, then you know how I'm going to be as a professional